Ismail Haniyeh, a top Hamas leader, has been killed, Iran says. Was targeted and killed in Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guards announced in a statement that Ismail Haniyeh, a top Hamas leader, was killed in Tehran where he was attending the inauguration ceremony of Iran's new president. The statement said that he and an Iranian security guard were targeted at the place of their residence, and further details will be announced. Sounds like Mossad. Israel's military said it wasn't issuing new emergency orders for the Israeli public, a possible sign that Israeli officials did not expect immediate retaliation. We prefer to resolve hostilities without a wider war, said Daniel There is a list Hagari, the Israeli military spokesman, but he added that the Israeli military was fully prepared for any scenario. The Beirut suburb that Israel targeted has long seen conflict. Damage from an Israeli military strike in a suburb of Beirut on Monday. The strike killed 3 civilians, including 2 children and 1 woman, and left 74 wounded, according to a statement from Lebanon's health ministry. Yeah, okay, now do Netanyahu. Yeah, remember, they said that they killed a Hezbollah, a leader, in this strike, but it doesn't seem like they did. They just killed 1 woman and 2 children. Just shot dead. Wait, Haniyeh was the one that lost a lot of his family already. Yeah, that's sad, dude. His 3 sons, right. I remember that. There's nothing you can throw at these people. Let's go on Al Jazeera Live.
The leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in Iran. That's according to statements from both Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran's state TV is also reporting that he has been assassinated in the Iranian capital. Well, Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, has now died at the age of 62. Jalid Aga takes a look back at Haniyeh's life and the events which shaped him into one of the most prominent Palestinian political figures.
This is what happened to the Al-Shati refugee camp in northern Gaza during Israel's war in 2023. It's where Ismail Haniyeh was born.
He was going to... Wasn't it the inauguration for the new president? Iranian president is killed in a helicopter crash. They inaugurate a new president, and at the inauguration, the leader of Hamas is assassinated. Did they really? I thought they just shot him. No, I feel like the way that the story was told to us made it seem as if it was Mossad. That was the first thing that I thought was someone in the chat was right. They I don't know if they waited, but he was at his whatever his residence was in Tehran, and I think it was he and his bodyguard, and I think he was shot. We can look at the story again. Assassinated in Iran. Country's Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hamas said on Wednesday. Hamas accused Israel of killing Mr. Haniyeh. He was in Tehran to attend the inauguration of the newly elected president. Look, anything having to do with the Iranian president, I would just stay away from now on. Because it's either he's gonna die or the people around him die. The location of the killing, Tehran, was noteworthy. In recent years, Haniyeh's home base has been in Qatar, a country that Israel maintains informal ties with. Since the start of the war, Israel hasn't killed Hamas leaders in Qatar. So if he had just stayed in Qatar, he might still very well be alive. Is it because he went to Iran? The last picture of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran on Tuesday showed him visiting a theme park exhibition of the Axis of Resistance landmarks. He is with the leader of Palestinian Islamic Jihad and a group of men posing with a model of the Aqsa Mosque. Iran is holding an emergency meeting of its Supreme National Security Council at the Supreme Leader's residence, an event that happens during extraordinary circumstances, according to 2 Iranian officials. The commander of the Quds force, which oversees the militant network of militias aligned with Iran, is also at the meeting. While Israel has not commented on the killing, it has in the past carried out a number of high-profile assassinations in Iran in recent years, rattling Iran's leaders and prompting a major security overhaul, including the ouster of a top security official. Curb your assassinations, says Saeed, and I agree. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei met with Mr. Haniyeh on Tuesday in Iran. A security breach at this level in Iran also raises questions about the safety of Iran's top leaders who were in close contact with Mr. Haniyeh just hours before his assassination. That's insane, right? That he was meeting with Iran's supreme leader just hours before he was assassinated. Ismail Haniyeh was one of the most senior leaders of Hamas for the past 2 decades, in recent years running the militant group's political operations from exile in Qatar. On Tuesday, Mr. Haniyeh was in Iran with the other senior members of Iran's Axis of Resistance. Well, that's what Satan calls the axis of terror. But you know what's funny is that the State Department calls it the axis of resistance. So try to square that circle. On Tuesday, Mr. Haniyeh was in Iran. Hamas's political leader. He was central to the group's high-stakes negotiations and diplomacy, including the stalled ceasefire deal negotiations with Israel. Mr. Haniyeh was named the leader of Hamas in Gaza in 2006. That year, he briefly served as prime minister of a Palestinian unity government, which was dissolved after months of tension that included armed conflict between Palestinian factions. In 2017, he was named the leader of Hamas's political bureau, at a time when it was trying to soften its public image as it jockeyed for influence among Palestinians and internationally. Mr. Haniyeh led Hamas from Qatar and Turkey in recent years. He was among the negotiators in an ongoing talks between Israel and Hamas mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States to end the war in Gaza, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Haniyeh was born in 1962 in the Shati refugee camp north of Gaza City. Palestinian parents who in 1948 had been displaced from their home in what is now Israel in Ashkelon. He studied at schools run by the main United Nations Agency for Palestinians, UNRWA, and went on to study Arabic literature at the Islamic University of Gaza. He was arrested by the Israeli military and served several sentences in Israeli jails in the 1980s and 90s. His rise to power in Gaza was aided by his mentor, the spiritual leader and founder of Hamas, Sheikh Yassin, for whom he served as personal secretary. The two were targets of an attempted Israeli assassination attempt in 2003. The next year, Mr. Yassin was killed by the Israeli military. "You don't have to cry," Mr. Haniyeh told the crowd gathered outside Shifa Hospital in Gaza City at the time. "You have to be steadfast, and you have to be ready for revenge." In May, the prosecutor for the ICC said he would seek an arrest warrant for Mr. Haniyeh. The prosecutor accused him and other Hamas leaders of war crimes and crimes against humanity in relation to the Octagon 7 attack on I-State, including extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape, and SA and detention. In June, Hamas said that Mr. Haniyeh's sister and her family were killed in a strike by the Israeli military on the Haniyeh family home in Gaza, an assertion the military did not confirm. In April, 3 of Mr. Haniyeh's 13 sons were killed by Israeli forces in another military operation in Gaza. He was defiant in the face of the loss, a common theme in Mr. Haniyeh's life. "We shall not give in, no matter the sacrifices," Mr. Haniyeh said at the time, noting that he'd already lost dozens of family members in the war. But it was a raid, is what they're characterizing it as. Anyway, that's the New York Times. An error occurred. What? Assassination of Haniyeh is a grave escalation. Why don't they let us see this? The Islamic resistance movement Hamas mourns to our great Palestinian people, to the Arab and Islamic nation, and to all the free people of the world. Brother, leader, martyr, Mujahid Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the movement, who was killed in a treacherous Zionist raid on his residence in Tehran, Hamas said. The IRGC also announced Haniyeh's death early this morning. The residence of Haniyeh in Tehran was struck in his and one of his bodyguards' martyrdom, resulting in his death. So yeah, early this morning. So well, maybe it was it a missile? It says the residence was struck. It gave no details on how Haniyeh was killed, and the IRGC said the attack was under investigation. Israel remained silent on Haniyeh's death, with media there reporting that the office of the Antichrist had ordered cabinet ministers not to comment. Far-right heritage minister, however, whoever the fuck that is, celebrated the Hamas leader's death on social media platform X. "The killing makes the world a little better," he wrote in Hebrew. Israel launched a war in Gaza, promising to eliminate H Group and kill its leaders after the group attacked Israel on Octagon 7, killing 1,200 people and taking more than 200 blah blah blah. At least 39,400 Palestinians have been K-worded in Israel's war, with 90,996 injured. Haniyeh Sounds like it was done with guns. That's what I would have thought. Or it was a bomb. I mean, the way that they said the residence was struck, but then they say it was a raid. You know, I think of a raid like a Mossad-style Navy SEALs type shit. Haniyeh left the Gaza Strip in 2019 and lived in Qatar. Top Hamas leader in Gaza is Yahya. One of my favorite names to say, Yahya Sinwar. An air raid. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, let's be real. I mean, is the Israeli diaper farts gonna really put themselves in danger? Are they just gonna strike? Send a cruise missile? Yeah, but it does beg the question: if it is an air raid, then how is it that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps didn't counter it or prevent it, missile defense style, like the ATF would do a raid, right? Right, satellites and drones. Try to pause on the H. Yahya. Or I'm probably embarrassing myself, aren't I? Home raid, okay. Well, I guess we'll have to just wait and see. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, who is in Deir al-Balah in Gaza, said the killing was significant. I nailed it? Alright, thank you for your tutelage. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, who is in Deir al-Balah in Gaza, said the killing was significant for the people of Gaza because he was the leader of negotiations that they hoped would lead to a ceasefire. Well, we know that Israel and the U.S., they broker the ceasefire. Palestinians across Gaza and the West Bank also view Ismail Haniyeh as a moderate leader who is much more pragmatic compared to other leaders who had the military side of the movement. Now, I could see that. I don't know. Just going by vibes, obviously, but just like noticing his demeanor. Seems very rational. He is very popular here. He grew up in a refugee camp. He represents the vast majority of the people who are the descendants of the refugee families who were displaced from the Palestinian territories in 1948. Many worry Haniyeh's killing could now lead to a further escalation of the conflict. Tensions were already high after Israel said it targeted a senior Hezbollah commander in a precision strike which killed a woman and 2 children and didn't kill, sorry, I have an itch in my nose, like I feel like a bug just went up my nose, on Beirut on Tuesday. This is a huge escalation. What happened yesterday in Lebanon, what's happening today in Tehran, it's an escalation by Israel, and that's going to have significant ramifications. The director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul, Zaim University, told Al Jazeera.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Obama gave the orders to do drone strikes.